that we've got a lot of frustrated Americans, but not just frustrated Americans, but Americans who feel like we've already tried all the other things. Like we've already tried I've written to my congressman. I called up my congressman. I said, I think you're a bum. And, it gives me slight satisfaction, but I'm not seeing results here. What can we do other than this? And suddenly, people are peering into the long-neglected Thomas Jefferson toolkit, and they're looking for things that might work. Now, some of these things, like nullification, I have to warn you, are not approved by the New York Times. And in fact, what I tell you tonight does not fall inside that box that all good Americans are supposed to confine themselves to. We're supposed to be in that box, and you all know it. It goes from Joe Biden to Mitt Romney. You're allowed to be somewhere in there. But if you stray a little bit over here, citizen, be careful. Be careful. You're not respectable. Well, my view is, as I've said repeatedly, that it's our job as good and decent Americans to crush that box into the ground and then set it on fire.
Well, did that resonate with you? Are you one of millions and millions of Americans who have been so frustrated, so very frustrated, saying, what else is left to do? It's not working with the courts. In Washington, D.C., nothing is working, absolutely nothing with Congress. And the executive branch, well, the entire executive branch has been the main problem. And thinking we have tried so many things. We have been sending these petitions to Congress. We are bringing lawsuits. We have brought so many lawsuits, but nothing seems to be working, right? Frustrated, right? Bewildered and frustrated, exasperated. Well, until recently, I was one of you. I was very frustrated, down with this insanity, with this upside down insanity. The masks, lockdowns, the coming mandatory vaccination, which is around the corner. I was left standing there saying, obviously it's not going through the elections. The path to take back and save our nation is not going through the elections. Isn't it obvious? It's not going through the courts. All the whistleblowing, all the things I did, because this insanity is not brand new. It has reached the new heights. It has reached the new levels. But we've been going insane for nearly half a century. And then it got accelerated. It started going so fast, back to back. One insane thing after another becoming the way of life here in the land of free after 9/11. You know what I'm talking about. And now it seems like how can it get crazier than this? How can it get any more crazy insane than what we are seeing right now currently? Is it even possible? Honestly, after 9/11, all the Patriot Act, the great sounding central controlled government measures, police state practices with pretty names. Yeah, Patriot Act, the TSA pat-downs. You know what I'm talking about. The NSA illegal surveillance of all Americans, suspending so many of our constitutional rights indefinitely. Yes, until recently, I was one of millions and millions of people who said, that's it, I'm about to give up. What else is left to do? It's as if we are helpless. Or pondering, what can we do? Under these circumstances, with our nation under attack, pretty much invaded by the aliens, the New World Order deep state aliens. What else? What else should we do? What is it that we haven't tried? What is it that we must do or we can do to take back, to save our nation, our Constitution, our liberties, our rights? After thinking frustratedly, researching, analyzing, pondering, going back, thinking again, I found the answer. Not one of those maybe we should try this kind of an answer. No. Actually, I found the definitive answer. I found the formula. I found the path with guaranteed victory to take back our liberties. And no, I did not invent it. I did not come up with some genius, original, new idea. No, I didn't do any of that. In fact, the path, the formula with guaranteed victory to overcome this insanity, these fascistic police state of our nation, this takeover of all our rights, well, that path, that formula has been around for over 2 centuries. In fact, it has been drilled into, it has been engraved into our Bill of Rights. Our founding fathers, back then, they foresaw this. They did. And they provided us with the formula, that last resort, that formula to say, when things get so insane, when you see that your government and the invaders who have taken over our federal governments, the Washington, D.C., the New World Order deep state, that when that happens, and it comes to that point of last resort, there is a way out. There is a way to go back and protect and defend and take back and save and protect our liberties. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yes. And I'm telling you, if implemented, so easy. We can do it. Together, we can do it. If implemented, we will overcome this. We will take back, we will save our nation.
And that was Jefferson's view. That was James Madison's view, as he wrote in the famous report of 1800, sometimes called the Virginia Report. He said, it's not the case, I'm paraphrasing, he said, it's not the case that our presidents are fallible, our congressmen are fallible, but our judges are divine. That's not our system. He says, to the contrary, all 3 branches can betray us. And so there needs to be a last resort mechanism when we've been betrayed by everybody. And that mechanism consists of the parties to the Constitution themselves, namely the states, having a last resort no. That's what Jefferson called nullification. He introduced that word into the American political vocabulary.
Yes, the time has come. It's here. It has arrived. And we can't wait. That time to go to that last resort, to that formula saved as a last resort to save our nation, to bring back our rights, has arrived. It's here. Yes, it is nullification. It is our 10th Amendment. You know, the amendment that within the academic circles, I was part of that. I went through 4 university degrees, graduate degrees, including a master's degree in public policy. when they teach you our rights, about our Constitution, about our Bill of Rights, they always, this is the academia, this is the deep states academia, they always bypass that 10th Amendment. They go about pretending as if it doesn't exist. They don't like anyone. They don't want anyone to talk about our 10th Amendment. Yes, the United States of America's Constitution, Bill of Rights, 10th Amendment, that gives us the right to save our nation from those corrupt, from those New World Order deep state invaders, to save our nation, to save and defend our Constitution against them as the last resort. And you tell me, if this is what we are seeing, this insanity we are seeing now, if this is not the time, if this is not the right time, if this is not the time to plug in this last resort, we have the right to do it, it's in our Constitution, and it is doable, then what is? Nullification. It is time to do it bottom up. Forget about getting so overwhelmed and frustrated by taking in the entire nation, the federal government, this insanity blanket all over our nation, and get so frustrated and say, there is nothing we can do. We are so little. Don't look at it that way. Don't look at it that way. It's time to do it, and do it quickly, because we don't have much time left. And we will do it, and we can do it, and it is guaranteed victory. Not for the entire nation. It is per state. It is doing it at the local level, bottom up. We can't save our nations because there are those people in those states that they are beyond saving. In fact, they don't want to be saved, you see? They have become part of this insanity, this problem. They have become one with the enemy that has been taking over our Constitution, our rights, our nation. They don't want to be saved. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? I'm talking about New York. I'm talking about California. I'm talking about Massachusetts. And that's fine. They are gone. That doesn't mean that it is the end of us. Absolutely not. Because there are those of us, not hundreds of thousands of us, not tens of millions. I would say over 100 million Americans who don't want to live like slaves, like dogs, you know? Look at the new rules that's about to come with this mandatory COVID vaccination. It's a COVID flu shot, okay? Let's not even call it vaccination. And they are saying it's not mandatory, even though it is mandatory. Here's how. They're going to say, fine, you don't want to take it? You have a choice, don't take it. But you can't send your kids to school. You can't get on the plane, you can't get on the train, you cannot get on buses, on any buses, any public transportation vehicles. You can't. You can't get jobs. Jobs offered by many corporations, many companies, because they are going to require you to have it, but you don't have to. Just remain unemployed, starve to death. That is, if you choose not to get the flu shot, the COVID flu shot. And yes, they are preparing these mandatory cards that you must show in order to send your kids to school, They all have to have these cars. And I have a miniature poodle, okay? It's like a teacup poodle. And I have traveled with her internationally. And it looks exactly like the pet passport, the dog passport. The one that says rabies was done, the rabies shot, and here is the date, and here is this vaccination, and that vaccination, and this and that. Well, they want exactly the same kind of a pet passport for us, we the people. But hey, you don't have to take it. You can say, I cease to exist in the society. I'm going to go and find some sort of an abandoned bridge and go under that bridge and live like a troll. I don't even know if that's possible. It has to be abandoned and it has to be somewhere in the boonies. Because I can't go to school, my kids can't go to school. I can't get jobs, 90+% of the jobs out there. I can't travel. I can't go to the movie theater. Hey, movie theaters, you have to show it. They're already saying it. I can't go watch any shows in the theater. I can't go to any stadium and watch a football game. There are so many things, maybe for some supermarkets. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the chains say, hey, you need to show it. Otherwise, order them online. You can't come to our supermarket and shop without this card. And guess what? It is not going to be limited. It is not going to be limited to some COVID flu shot once. Once they get this in place, which is only a few weeks, maximum a few months away, because it's happening, it's going to be just the beginning. Yes, it is. It will be just the beginning because it's the flu shot. Next year, 6 months from now, they're going to find a different strain of this COVID craze flu, right? This virus. And they're going to say, well, you have to repeat it, and this time you need to supplement it with this strain. And while they're at it, they're going to start adding others. Because once they get people become dogs, yeah, the pets, the dogs, the rest is going to come indefinitely with no limits. They're going to require you to have influenza shots as well. Because look at your pet passport. It's not only rabies. Just take a look at it. The one for us, the one that they are going to require to exist, they're going to keep adding to it. Influenza shot records. Every year has to be renewed because, hey, it has expiration. They're just like driver's license, and it won't be for 5 years. Every single year, you need to go and get additional shots and have it listed there, like dogs, and show your dog card, dog health card, if you want to call it health, in order to have the privilege of using public transportation, in order to have the privilege to travel, in order to have the privilege of going to work and work in a company physically, to have the privilege to send your kids to school. Yes, that's all that is going to be privilege. Remember what they did with the TSA, the pat downs, the fingering, you know, all the stuff that they have been doing? Because once they put these things in place, it's forever. They had the red alert codes and then the orange codes, Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. So for travel, you had to submit, okay, your entire body to X-ray machines, to all the pat downs and the fondling and squeezing and fingering and all that. Not for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. It's now almost 20 years. Have they laxed that? No, they haven't. It's here to stay. They trained, they conditioned all of us to accept all that, to accept them as a way of life, as a way of life. This is no different. Now they are taking it to the next level with this COVID craze, and it's here, it's coming. But we have a way out. We have a way out. We have the right to use this path, this formula to get out. And not only that, it's not only that. Our founding fathers, they said it is incumbent upon us to take this path in order to defend our Constitution. They didn't really talk about the borders and defending of our borders that much. It has always been about standing up for, defending eternal vigilance, defending our constitutions, our liberties. And that is nullification. I'm saying that until recently, I was one of those frustrated ones looking and saying, what is there left to do? Is there anything to do? I can't think of anything. Well, here it is, and I've been doing it. I have started. And I want you to join me. I want you to join me all over the United States, in those states that want to remain American, in those states where Constitution matters. I said, forget about the rest of them. This is where the separation has become inevitable. It has become inevitable. And there are so many of us, and there are so many states. I'm here in Florida. I am active. I have been active with a group of people, a circle of activists like me, and our circle has been expanding, In fact, now in Florida, we are going to set up other chapters because I am in touch, I'm in contact with like-minded people, the Americans, the real Americans. In Jacksonville, I'm in Naples, Florida, in Tampa, near Orlando, in Northwest Florida, who are saying, yes, we want to be part of this. Nullification. And we can. What can we do? The formula, with our local authorities, with our elected officials, locally elected officials, and our state officials, our state Congress, we can nullify their invasion, their tactics to eliminate our liberties, our Constitution. This is the nullification. Think of it as the 10th Amendment, our guaranteed right. Think of them as an opt-out. Your state, our state, my state, opting out of this insanity and saying, no, you can't force me to do that. And we have the right. Here it is. There is no ifs or buts about it. It is boldly engraved permanently, indefinitely as our right in our Bill of Rights. Definitely, permanently. That's the formula. What are we going to do? There are many, many patriots here. Many patriots here in Florida. I moved to Florida. I am now a resident here. I have my Florida driver's license. And this is a state that is not going to be that hard. We got to save this. And we're going to opt out. Our elected officials here, we are going to get them opt out. Nullify. Nullify lockdowns. Nullify mandatory vaccination. And nullify mandatory masks. We are going to do that. It will be done like this in places like South Dakota, Wyoming, probably Texas. I don't know how much invasion they have suffered with Californians moving there. Let me give you an example. I'm in Naples, Florida. Here, one of the things we did several weeks ago, we sent a petition, a letter asking for commitment signature response, right? On the record response from our city council members, okay? One of our activist members prepared the template and we all sent this to our city council members, right? It was beautiful. I got responses. You know how it is with Washington, D.C. You send petition, you send letter. They just tear it apart. They just throw it in the trash can. None of that. Immediately, I started getting replies saying, yes. They say, yes, we are committed to protect your rights, our Constitution, our nation. We, or I, City Council member this, I, the mayor of, let's say, Marco Island, I pledge to stand for our rights, for your rights, for our Constitution. I stand against these mandatory vaccinations, mandatory masks, this insanity. Heartening. That was the first step. Now, with new chapters all over Florida, I'm here, I'm announcing it at the same time. It's our group, and it's a magnificent group. Ordinary citizens who take their citizenship, right? They take being American, their Constitution, they don't take it for granted. And they are being true patriots, true Americans, saying, we are going to opt out because this is un-American, this is unconstitutional. It's beautiful. It is simply beautiful to see that we can come together regardless of any gender or race, regardless of any party. Constitution is not supposed to be party-oriented. Whether they are libertarians, Republicans, Democrats, Green Party, I don't care. We are fighting for the exact same thing. We are fighting for our liberties, we are fighting for our Constitution, and we are doing so constitutionally. Because our Constitution, our Bill of Rights says, here is the formula. When you get invaded by these deep state aliens, they didn't put it that way, when your central government is so corrupted and co-opted, here is the formula you use. Here are all the tools, all the weapons we have provided you, all the rights we have given you to take back your rights, your Constitution, with your state. And I am in Florida. And I'm proudly doing that. And since just in the past couple of weeks, it's been, the feeling, I just can't describe how good it feels. Not to be confused, not to be baffled, not to be unsure, not to doubt myself saying, well, is that going to work? Is this going to work? Because we know it's going to work. Nullify now. We are going to have 3 opt-out with this nullification. Our state, we got to work towards our state, our government in Florida, our Congress here in Florida to nullify any compliance with mandatory vaccine, mandatory mask, and lockdown, period. No ifs, no buts about it. No ifs, no buts about it. Clear and simple. Again, it has nothing to do with any gender or color or religion or race or party politics. This is about our Constitution, and we are coming together. And our circle is getting bigger and wider. That is the only way. Look, it's not only being theoretic and theoretical based on some master's degree in public policy, okay? I have lived through a lot of things in different countries as well. I have gone through the federal courts. I have gone through the Supreme Court. I have marched the halls of our Congress in Washington, D.C., and various agencies operating under our executive branch. I know. That's not the way. They are the ones we are actually fighting. They are the ones who are actually bringing this insanity. And they are bringing this insanity upon us, and they are attacking, taking away our rights, our liberties guaranteed under our Bill of Rights. So how dumb, how stupid, how futile to keep sending petitions and letters to our enemies, the ones who are doing it. That's insane. Or hoping that something is going to happen through the federal courts. They are in the enemy camps. But not the case with our local governments, with our state government. We, the people, can do it, and we are going to do it. And it will have a domino effect. There will be so many other states. way up to here, they've had it. We don't care about California. They're not going to set the tone for us. They're trying. The area where I live, Naples, Southwest Florida, there are so many people like me. I'm seeing them, I'm meeting them everywhere. There are so many local shops that I go who are people who are saying, no, we're not gonna give in. We're not gonna abide by our enemies' insane measures, and we're not gonna require you to do that, right? But it's a different story when you go to the west side of the country. So it was about an hour and a half, 2 hours of trip. We drove for a meeting. We drove from here to north of Fort Lauderdale, which is right there in Boca Raton region. Now there, you're seeing a different story. In fact, it was surreal. Whether on the streets, in the waiting room, in the reception area, I see hundreds and hundreds of people everywhere, out on the street, walking by themselves in the parks. Not only they are wearing that mask, pinched here all the way up to their eyes, they are also, every single one of these people were also wearing the visors, right? I almost got attacked in the waiting room of this reception area by this guy in his late 40s. And in this reception area, the way the seats were, he was sitting at least 12 to 13 feet away from me. He was wearing a mask, and he was wearing a visor, right? And his purplish pink jeans, very San Francisco, very Massachusetts, whatever you want to call it. And with all this stuff, he yelled at me and he said, you need to wear the mask and you need to wear it properly, put it up to here and squeeze it and pinch it here. I said, no, I want to breathe. I don't want to die. I need oxygen. So he went to the reception and said, either you're going to kick this woman out or I'm going to do it right now myself. From the accent, I could tell probably Connecticut, upstate New York, that part of the state, Florida, is been invaded. Now, it's interesting. I was trying to reason, not mildly, standing my ground and saying, look, so you go to a restaurant with your visor and your mask, sit there, and they do that. You go to cafes and restaurants, and while they are seated at their table, they are still wearing their visors and their masks, right? And then once their food comes, they take it off and they're eating. What the heck? What is rational about that? If this is not surreal, insane, lunacy, okay? Insanity, what is? What did they protect themselves from? You see what I'm talking about? But they are constantly screaming and yelling about true Americans here in Florida and the government relatively being better. And they're saying, no, you need to do it like where I'm from because these people have 2, 3 homes. Their main residence is in New York and Connecticut and Massachusetts, New Jersey. The snowbirders, you know who I'm talking about. If it's that good where you are, and if you're so bad where we are, why the heck you keep coming here? They are flocking here, okay? They are all pouring to Florida to invade it and change it and make it like New York, and then where are they going to go after that? If it's so good, stay put. Because now we are at this time, look, for so long I was one of these people, not exactly the centrist, like a wishy-washy, not in that way, but I did believe that sure, we can have our differences, but we can also coexist, live, debate, do things at the same time in our society, in our country, that it was possible. And it was possible, maybe I was wrong back then, but I see that it has passed that point. It's not possible. It can't mix, okay? It really can't mix. There is no way we can reconcile these differences, especially when it comes to our Constitution, our liberties, and our way of life. And it's not as if we are telling them, these traders, you cannot, it's illegal. We want to pass a law and say you can't wear your mask or you can't wear your visor. We are not saying that. They are the ones who are imposing it on us and saying no. We are dictating, and we demand that you do, and we demand that you lock down, and we demand that you live your life this way. We demand that you send your little kids to school and they can get oxygen into their brains with their masks pinched over the bridge of their nose, and preferably with a visor on top of that. Well, I say no to that. I believe there are tens of millions of people in our country who are saying no to that. There is no way of any compromise or any reconciliation with people like that. No way in this world. We know that. And we know that we are at the state of the last resort. And we know that constitutionally under our Bill of Rights, we have the path, we have the formula, we have the right, and we have the obligation to nullify these attacks, these practices, these mandates that are the enemy, in contrast of our Constitution, Bill of Rights. Anti-Americans, okay? So, what's going to stop us? The only thing that can stop us is not doing it. And I'm telling you, and I'm not being Pollyanna here, I am telling you, together in our states, the remaining American states, forget about the rest. I hope something happens. Maybe they can voluntarily move to the EU. They can go to countries where they have these despotic one central government and no constitution, no Bill of Rights, and everything comes top to bottom, okay? They have a choice. They are telling us we have a choice, right? With the mandated vaccination, mandatory vaccination, saying, yeah, you have a choice, don't do it. Well, they have a choice, go away. And please don't come to our states. You can't have it both ways. You can't be in Massachusetts, okay? And then come and take over these areas, these cities, these towns in Florida, and say, we want to change your way of life. We demand that you change it. Let's do it. It's guaranteed. There is nothing that can stop us because it's a constitutionally guaranteed right. Our states, our local governments in our cities, they have the power, they have the right to opt out with nullification and say, we do not abide, implement your mandated vaccination, mandatory lockdowns, and mandatory masks. All it takes, we the people saying, yes, it's our government here in our state, it's our local government, and we have already started here in Naples, Florida, including Marco Islands here. And I am in touch with those of you in Jacksonville. I heard from a wonderful veteran there who's planning to run in 2022. And we are going to organize this as chapters. So, we need our circles, we need you, we need your voices, join us. This is for Florida, but this is applicable everywhere. Everywhere where there still are those majority factions of constitutionalist Americans. Whether you're in South Dakota or Texas or Georgia or Alabama or Missouri, wherever you are, not California, forget about them. As far as I'm concerned, I pretend they don't exist. I hope they can do the same things. Don't come here. You have your governments, your states, live there happily ever after in your lockdown with your visors, with your mandatory mask, with your mandatory dog passports and the shots and all that, okay? Don't come here and expect us to change our way of which is the American way of life. You can give up on your Constitution and say, hey, F our Constitution, because you are doing it with your lunacy. Don't come here and don't expect us to do the same, because we are doing the opposite. And there is no way for us to coexist side by side in one place. Yes, I'm talking in this definitive tone, in these, in this definitive terms, because it is definitive. When I was there on Monday, when I was in Boca Raton, I said, I'm not coming here again, but hey, it's Florida. They're the ones who shouldn't be there. It's not their residence. It's their second home. They are snowbirders. Go eat snow, but you can't do that. I don't know how you can eat snow with your mask and eat your visor, okay? You haven't invaded this state, and you have no right to dictate here in our state. We are separating. As someone who's been married for 29 years, I'm telling you, I know all about compromises. I know all about you can't change. All you do is there are ways for us to compromise and to coexist and maintain a relationship. Sure. Hey, look at me. I've been married for 29 years. But what I'm telling you, in this case, at this stage, in this country, in our nation, it has gotten to that last resort. It has gotten to that point where we can't coexist. It's people, they give the analogy of vinegar, oil, and vinegar. It's not even that. It's worse than that. Let's have a clean break. Let's save our states, and that actually, I believe, will be the majority of the states, just from the elections. Just remember that map, things lighting up there, red, blue, etc., right? Sure, they have the 4 times the population of their population in New York, maybe the 5, 8, 10 times the population of South Dakota. I don't care. It's their place. It's their neck of woods. Go ahead. Give up on your constitutions. Have all this mandate stuff. Have a permanent lockdown. Okay? Good for you. Leave us alone. Don't come to our states. But majority of the states, and I'm telling you, with 1, 2, 3, the 4th success, the 5th success of opting out of this insanity, because it is insanity, we are going to see the domino effect, excluding the insane, the lunacy states, okay? We are going to see every single one of the sane states, the American states, doing the same thing. And we must act now, do it now. I'm telling you, I'm going to have the link to Tom Woods. In fact, I'm going to end this video with another 2-minute excerpt from Tom Woods, one of his many videos on nullification. I strongly suggest that you get his book on nullification. I'll include that link as well. And I strongly urge you, okay, that's even stronger than suggesting. I strongly urge you to get that book, read it, watch these videos, or listen to his podcast. There are dozens of those on nullifications. And then you're going to agree. You're going to say, yeah, we have all the reasons to be optimistic and act now, because it's going to be too late. Look, after 9/11, they started suspending so many of our amendments. They are doing it again, okay? Whether it's on your 2nd Amendment, or in this case, I'm specifically talking about our 10th Amendment. There is still time. And not a long time. I'm talking about matter of weeks, maybe 2, 3 months, but we can organize because we are ready. People are ready. Our people, our Patriots are ready in Florida. I'm sure it's the same case with so many of other states. Let's do it together. Now, let's nullify. Let's nullify their insane measures. Okay? We are not going to become dogs with the dog pet passports. And no, we're not going to walk around like loony bandits with masks and visors. The book of bitches we see there in Boca Raton, we are not that. Let's do it. As I'm ending this, and you're going to have the clip from Tom Woods, I'm going to include the link. I would love to hear from other groups, however small. We started with 6-7 people, and now we are expanding every day, okay? Reach out to us. Reach out to me, because everywhere in the United States, in all the same states, but especially in Florida. Today, I posted a tweet about this video, about the fact that time for us to come together and organizedly move this forward methodically, but also speedily, because tick-tock, tick-tock, the clock is ticking, and it's ticking very, very loud. Okay, we don't have much time. In Florida, I got some responses from you, Samantha from Fort Lauderdale, and we have another person from Jacksonville, and several others reached out to me. What we want to do is, now we have our groups, and it's expanding, getting bigger and bigger here, but we want to also put together the communication methods and gatherings with the those of you in other parts of Florida state, okay? Whether you are in Fort Lauderdale area, or Northwest Florida, or Central Florida, we can get together on weekly basis. We are doing it several times a week here in Florida. So please reach out to me, join us, because together, and this is for Florida, but as I said, this can be replicated anywhere in the United States, guaranteed under our Constitution. The formula, the guaranteed formula to the guaranteed path to victory, contact me. Let us do it. Hopefully, we'll be the first state. And again, I'm going to be definitive and say, we'll start the dominoes. We're going to have other states, other constitutional American states with integrity follow the suit. They're not going to do it on their own, okay? Although there are, as I can see here in Florida, there are so many good people here, but we have to give them the push publicly, very in a way that is resolved, okay? And say no compromise on this, no ifs or buts on this. Nullify now. On this COVID insanity, mandatory vaccination, mandatory lockdown, mandatory mask. Now, you do it now, nullify now. We opt out, they have zero rights. They have zero power to implement those insane measures in our neck of woods, in our state. We gotta get them to do it. We're gonna be going to Tallahassee. The next congressional session is gonna start around first week in March. I believe it's March 3rd. There is a lot to do. We have so much to do. We have to do fast. We have to do it methodically, organizedly. We have to be, and we're gonna get it done. I don't want to keep repeating myself. I know I've been repeating myself, but I have to, because I have been detecting this mood, this somber mood, this pessimistic, defeatist mood. And I was feeling it myself. And I'm telling you, it is not over. It's just starting, and it's not a guesswork this time. Nullify now per state. We are going to be a movement. We are already a movement here in Naples, Florida. We're going to spread out throughout the state. I want to see it with other states. We want to network with people in other states. And I want to thank, really, this man that I have. I mean, he's my hero. People sometimes ask me, they say, oh, can you recommend a website or a podcast or an analyst or a writer? For years and years, I have been given one definitive name, and it doesn't change, and that is Tom Woods. Go to tomwoods.com, okay? It reeks with crystal clear, okay? And sane activism, knowledge, being informed. You don't see sites like that. It's very rare to come across, at least for me, to say, that's right. when it comes to integrity and with information that doesn't reek with all sorts of either wishy-washy or twisted, none of those. And as far as nullification goes, you can't find any better expert in this country than Tom Woods. Get his book. This is not sponsored by Tom Woods. He doesn't even know I'm making this video, okay? Watch his video or listen to his podcast. They are available in podcast format and video formats, okay? Those of you who are not familiar with the concept of nullification, in less than 2 days, you're gonna be like a walking encyclopedia listening to Tom Woods, because he lays it bare, he lays it out, because it's not too complicated. Our founding fathers, they were not like the current pendejo, lobbyist-driven attorneys in Congress in Washington, D.C. today. They formatted it, the way they wrote it was so that all Americans of all walk of lives in the United States would understand your Bill of Rights. You read it, including the nullification under our 10th Amendment. You don't have to go through hundreds of pages of footnotes and complications. Read it. Listen to his podcast, Tom Woods. In 2-3 days, you know exactly what I'm talking about, if you aren't already or if you don't already, because this is the path, this is the only path. I'm repeating it again. We have the path, the only path, the path with guaranteed success. Let's nullify this insanity, this COVID insanity, the deep state's plans now. Let's nullify now.
What institution on earth has been the most lethal in history for racial minorities? Well, the modern centralized state. I mean, ask how the Armenians living in the Ottoman Empire were treated, or the Ukrainians in the Soviet Union, or the Asians in Uganda, or of course the Jews in Germany. How did they like political centralization? Did they think that it was really helping racial minorities there? Every tyrant who ever lived wants centralized power and despises the idea of nullification. And I know that when you talk about issues like this, somebody inevitably brings up Hitler. I'm sorry to have to be that person. But if you read Mein Kampf, which most of us, I don't think are in the habit of doing, so I save you the trouble, in there is a bit on states' rights. And Hitler is dead set against it. And that should not be a head-scratcher. You know, he's Hitler, right? I mean, he doesn't want some state to be able to defy him. His whole fascist view is that the nation needs to speak with one voice. Well, that's not what the United States is. The United States was supposed to be something different among the nations. Because at the time the United States was being born, there was already a trend towards centralization, and it would accelerate in the 19th century with the unification of Germany, the unification of Italy, centralization in Japan. It's going on everywhere. This idea that became mainstream in the West, that the only way you can organize political society is to have one irresistible power center ruling over a bunch of helpless individuals. But that wasn't the United States model. The United States looked to an older model, the older model in which Western liberty was born. The model in Europe, whereby you didn't just have one irresistible power center telling everybody else what to do. You had all these small little associations in society, churches and cities and towns and guilds and universities, and they all had their privileges and immunities. They all had their liberties that they were going to defend. And so there was no power in society that could demand that they all conform, because they were all ready to resist. They weren't just a bunch of isolated individuals. They had powers that came before the king's power. They had powers that came before the center's power, and that's how liberty came to Europe. Liberty came to Europe because after you got rid of the Roman Empire fell, there was no continent-wide empire that replaced it. What you had was a whole bunch of tiny little principalities, and when all the principalities are tiny, it conduces to liberty, because if you oppress people, all they got to do is move 10 feet away. And that keeps the ambitions of princes limited. And so that's why it's important for us to remember, to think about, where is liberty most likely to be preserved today? under one giant jurisdiction or under a multiplicity of competing jurisdictions? Well, we are taught not to think that way. We're taught to think the 19th century and late 18th century French revolutionary heresy of political centralization is the only way of organizing society. The United States was an experiment in saying no to that. Because the United States, if you look in the Constitution, is never once referred to in the singular. It's never referred to in the singular. It's always referred to in the plural. Because that's what we are. What makes us great is not that we're a great big country. The Soviet Union was a great big country. China under Mao was a great big country, and tens of millions of people died. That doesn't make you great. And there are tiny little places on the globe that are wonderful and great places to live. Renaissance Florence was a wonderful place to live. It's not the size. It's the fact that we're a collection of societies, that we haven't yielded everything to the center, that we have retained corporate bodies like states that have powers of resistance, but those powers have lain dormant for too long. And so now it is time, I suggest, that we have the political imagination, not, thank goodness, to have to think of something from scratch, but to have the presence of mind and the courage to look back to our own tradition and say, no, this is not the way we're supposed to live. We are not supposed to live with over 300 million people accepting the infallible judgments of some king. No, we are supposed to be a free people. The world is full of centralized states. Germany, France, England, everywhere. The world has enough of those. Let's be the exception. Let's be the exception for liberty and be the beacon to the world to reverse this trend and bring back both liberty and civilization to the United States and to the world. Thank you very much.